amazing in terms of productivity, innovation, creativity. So well-being in leadership is often been kind of like a sideline, not central. And I think given the impact of pandemic on human well-being, it's become a leadership topic. And I'm really happy, even though I'm not happy about the pandemic, I'm really happy that it has moved into that place. So we are living in a time of very high emotional arousal. And, there was a CDC study showing that more than half of us are struggling with some kind of symptom, maybe not clinical diagnosable anxiety and depression and grief, but there's a lot. We're suffering more than we were. We see a lot of anger out there. We see, so that's one kind of emotional experience. Then we see the fear, anxiety, worry, stress, panic, which is that, if any of you have had a panic attack, it's an extremely, extremely unpleasant experience. You want to jump out of your skin. Then we have a lot of loss, all the deaths, hundreds of thousands of deaths, the sadness of watching the loss, the grief, if it's really up and close and personal. I'll come back to trauma, and we have burnout. We thought we had burnout before. That is the understatement. It's just gotten a lot worse. And there's really no end in sight. So there's a lot of emotional arousal. And we know that the emotions are created in the brain by the brain to signal to us how we're doing in terms of the resources relative to the demands. And we are all feeling that we're in over our heads right now. We're not as in over our head perhaps as we were in March. We are getting stronger, but this is the shared experience, this heightened arousal. So I mentioned Tedeschi and Calhoun. So they define trauma, which is what we're going through, and you'll see why, is a life-altering event that is psychologically seismic. It shakes our core beliefs and assumptions about one's future and how to move toward that. And we're all in that place. And it doesn't always, it can cause massive anxiety and psychic pain. It's, to some extent, the perspective on it is in the eye of the beholder. So some of us are suffering more than others, but at the same time, we are all going through something traumatic, and it is something that is shaking us, it's rattling, it's rocking us to our core. So that's what we're all sharing. Some of us big T traumas, some of us small T traumas. If you're working in healthcare on the front lines, and probably some of you are, it feels like this. We don't know when it's going to end, and it's a big burden. And a lot of people who are not in hospitals every day are not in touch with just the horrendous illness that we're seeing. Even if mortality is down and severity is down and we're doing a better job than we were, it is a big burden for healthcare to carry. And for some of you, burnout feels like this, where not only are you carrying the burden, but the administrators who are not, anybody that's not in the front line, that's not really taking the risks every day of dealing with really sick people, feels as though they're not supported. And this is a serious problem, because once you slip down the slippery slope of burnout, it is hard to dig yourself out. And it's a very difficult place to be. And, all of us are having some version of that, even if it's not serious. Whoops, for some reason my slides are. So in summary, big T traumas and small T traumas, while different. So big T traumas, horrible things, violence, death, earthquakes, hurricanes, floods, abuse, war. We know that those lead to post-traumatic issues and sometimes growth. But the story here is, whether it's small, medium, or large, the growth presents the opportunity to go beyond what is defined as resilience, which is recovery back to where we were before, going back to baseline. That's not what we're talking about with post-traumatic growth. We're talking about not easily and not quickly, but actually moving beyond where we were before to growth. And it's the struggle in the aftermath, like where we are right now. It's the struggle with this overwhelming, not every day, not all day, but the combination of the emotional experience. It's actually walking through that well that is the process, the path to the transformation. And so we can't escape it. We don't get to avoid it. We can maybe watch, whatever your favorite Netflix TV series and kind of escape for a little while. But at the end of the day, we're walking through this experience together. So we're called to then, as Thich Nhat Hanh says so beautifully, to suffer well, to be with our suffering, to be compassionate to ourselves, to be accepting of the emotional experience, to get emotional support, to take good care of ourselves, to feel it fully, to shed the tears. The day before Thanksgiving, I had tears. I was out and about, and I felt tearful, and it was, and I had some space. I wasn't working, and the grief came up, and it was really around the collective suffering, and we have to let those tears out. We've got to create space for them, and maybe a little every day where we feel what we're feeling, because that's how we suffer well. So I'm not going to talk anymore about emotional suffering, because I want to stay on this topic about growth, but that is, of course, a big topic. And if you're a mindfulness practitioner and you understand self-compassion, there are lots of tools out there. Now, one of the ways we suffer well is to take good care of ourselves. So this is one pitch for taking good care of ourselves. So one is, keeping ourselves emotionally balanced, which means harvesting and cultivating the good in life, because there is good things. We're not dying, most of us. We have friends, we have homes, we have food, we have lots to be grateful for, and we've been celebrating that at Thanksgiving. The next thing you can do for yourself is sleep well. Not so easy to do when we have anxiety and stress, but finding ways to relax and sleep are really important. Good exercise is keeping a lot of us sane right now, and maybe more than we've ever needed exercise than now. Good nutrition, because the brain needs good food, good. There's no nutrition stores in the brain. What you eat is what your brain gets to its energy from, and so you want to eat healthy foods. Taking brain breaks, especially when we're on Zoom a lot, and then finding recovery, a day off here and there, an afternoon off, a weekend off, a couple of days off. All those things are really important. So we need to take care of ourselves. We also need to intentionally draw out the good in our lives. This is a beautiful study by Barbara Fredrickson, who's the lead researcher in the biology and psychology and neuroscience of positive emotions. And this beautiful study, done a while ago, 10 years ago actually, shows the following: that what brings on life satisfaction. So life satisfaction is when you look back over your life and say, I did a good job. I have talents, I'm making a contribution, I did a good job. And if you put it in this context, that means a year or two from now, you're looking back and you're saying, I did well in the pandemic. I made a difficult situation as good as it could be. I feel satisfied with how I did. That's what life satisfaction is about. The main variable that leads to life satisfaction, interestingly, not the only one, but the one with the largest impact, is resilience, which means the ability to bounce back from difficult things. So when we look back on this experience, we'll be able to say, I lived through difficult things, I bounced back well, I feel satisfied with my life and my contribution. And then the main variable that drives resilience is not the level of negative emotions, because we all have plenty. It's in fact the ability to summon the positive, the gratitude, the appreciation, the love, the connection. It's being able to bring that up and out in the face of all the negative that allows you to be resilient. It floats your boat, basically, that allows you to be satisfied with your life. So that's why positivity is really important, along with well-being. So now let's talk for a few minutes about growth, because we are growing. It's not pleasant, like growing pains. It doesn't feel good. You wish you didn't have to grow. You really would rather have an easier life than to get stronger. Most of us would say that a good deal of the time, but that's not what's happening. We don't really have a choice. And we're growing beyond resilience. That's the gift of the time. We don't have those gifts yet. Maybe you're starting to see them, but that's what we're gaining. So let's go back. So the bottom line, these are the 5 things that Tedeschi and Calhoun discovered in their work in building this theory, post-traumatic growth. These are the 5 things that they found. Let's walk through them really quickly. There's nothing new here. There's nothing that will be a surprise. This is about deepening all these things. The simple things matter when it comes to human well-being. First is appreciation. We appreciate things we did not appreciate fully before. Maybe we took them for granted. So appreciating, one of the best things we can appreciate, because this is what nourishes us, is others. Just like you're all here to nourish each other, to appreciate each other. This is not complicated. This is simply sitting with people and asking, how are you doing? What's going well? What are you learning? What can I do to help you? How can I support you? These are simple, deep conversations about things that are happening that are real, and they are really important right now. The second thing, this is back to Thich Nhat Hanh. He is looking at, I don't know if it's a cup with tea in it or a singing bowl. Either way, you can see the deep savoring from him. You know, such a simple thing, the deep appreciation. And that's what we need to do. We need to savor the good that we have, the beautiful cup of tea or coffee, the piece of chocolate, the hug from your mate, a fresh flower, you know, a sunny day. It's important to take some breaths and enjoy and really savor. So that's appreciation. Next, we have relationships. This is a time to hang out with people, to be with people, to remember our good travel times, you know, when we were free to move around. We've got photos, hopefully, of those memories, to really get to know people that we maybe didn't take time, your neighbors, your family, your friends, your colleagues. So we've had opportunities to deepen relationships. And also, most of us work in teams, and teams are an immense source of deeper relationships. The reason I've got this picture of husky dogs is that I love husky dogs. I was born in Canada, and I have been dog sledding in the north, in the snow, a long time ago, but it's an amazingly fun thing. And the reason it's fun is because these dogs love to pull the sleigh. They are jumping up and down in the morning, waiting to get on the harness to pull the sleigh. They love to run together. It is a joy to be with these dogs. And so when I think of a high functioning team, I think about the pack of huskies. You can see it in their eyes. You know, it's cold, for heaven's sakes. And they are loving working together. They're all, you know, and they've all got their different places in the pack. And so teamwork is an amazing opportunity today to enrich our relationships. Oops, for some reason my cursor is bouncing around. Then if we open our eyes, we see Lego blocks, you know, as opportunities, new things happening that wouldn't have happened elsewhere. So a really good example for me is that I got invited to help the UK Metropolitan Police in London. Now, I live in Boston. I have not coached police, and I have not been teaching bias training, working in racism. And I'm deep into a project there now that came out of the pandemic. It's an interesting story how that happened. It never would have happened without the pandemic. I would not have found myself in this place. I would not have imagined that I would be at home in this place. And it's one of my favorite projects. And these are Lego opportunities all around us, if we have our eyes open, that would not have happened. And these are the things that we look back on and say, wow, if it wasn't for the pandemic, this wouldn't have happened. Very important that we find opportunities. Second to last is we are getting stronger. That's what adversity does. We as humans, I can say this as a coach, probably all of us, including me, underestimate our strengths and our resources. We don't know how much we have until we're tested. And we don't want to be tested to find out. But the truth is, we've all got more. We have panic and worry and anger and all this, and we underestimate our ability to walk through this time and do well and find the strength in the difficulty. So trust, we are getting stronger. We are going somewhere. And the last thing, which is really maybe the summation of all of these things together, which is to make meaning. So humans, you know, we evolved with the ability to construct, to find, to have meaning, find us, to make something meaningful, which means that the experience is important, it's valuable to us, it matters, it's worth going through. And we have the ability to do that as humans. You know, we turn that into meaningful religions and philosophies and all kinds of works of art. This is what we do, is we create it. It's not there. We actually have to create it. Maybe you prefer the word purpose, which is more of a thinking. Meaning is more of an intuitive thing. It comes to you that something's meaningful. It's more like wisdom and insight. But purpose is like, this is my purpose. This is my calling. One of my callings right now is helping folks who are dealing with burnout and these challenges. And I have had my traumatic times in my life. This is not one of them for me. It's not. And I feel very fortunate that it's not now for me. I have had my share. I'm glad it's not now. But that means that for me, my purpose is to bring that strength, having been through my own very serious challenges, that now I have the strength and the experience and the wisdom that I can use that strength now. So that's how you find a calling in this time. And then the last thing I want to talk about is grief and creativity, which I introduced, and they work together. So when we have a lot of pain, we want to do something with it. We want to get it out of us. We want to put it into something. And so you think about some of the most amazing composers in history who wrote the most amazing symphonies, complex, much more complex than music today. And that came out of pain. Art comes out of pain. Writing comes out of pain. And so whatever hobby you have or creative outlet you have, it might be a good time to really, turn the emotional energy into something, to make it be transformed into some creative act of some kind. And as Shelley Carson says, grief, so she's the one that is teaching us this, grief provides some of the notes of our lives that make it a richer symphony overall. This is the adversity we go through that makes us stronger, that gives us more meaning, that enriches our lives, brings new opportunities, that makes this experience worth living. So we're all on a journey then together to make things better, to suffer well, to use the trauma, to experience it fully in the fullness of its expression, so that it can transform us. The tears fill the river that carries us forward. That is a beautiful quote that I read from a woman's book. You might remember Clarissa Estes, Women Who Run with the Wolves. There's a story in the book, and I don't remember which one is the story, but the theme is that the tears fill the river that carry you forward. The suffering is what moves you forward. And we're moving forward to better selves, better teams, better families, a better world. We are learning, growing, getting stronger, getting wiser. If we use this well, it will take us to a new place. Be well.